Welcome to Video Village. I'm Mihir Shah, and today we are doing a DreamWorks animated movie draft. Joining us, returning to the pod from the Pixar episode is Kunal and for the first time, please welcome Akshay Patel.
Hello.
So, do we as a group care about DreamWorks movies? Okay, let me reframe that. Have you cared about DreamWorks movies that have come out in the last 10 years?
Abso-freaking-lutely.
And unequivocally answered no for me, Mihir.
and the thing for me is that DreamWorks stays hitting. DreamWorks has always hit a note that Pixar can't, and it's a realness with the teenager community. Their movies have so much more rewatchability. They build lovable characters that have motivations that you kind of believe in versus this like dreamy landscape that these Pixar characters are in. And, you know, it's really a foundation of how DreamWorks was started, kind of to actually make fun of Pixar. And so I really think that the DreamWorks movies have such a solid place in our adult lives as well.
I like that take a lot. I think that you're right that Pixar can't do what DreamWorks does, or rather, like, maybe he's just not interested in doing it. Yeah, but I mean, Kunal, I would like to hear your take on this too, but like, I think like for me in the last 10 years, there's been like 2 or 3 DreamWorks movies that I've been like, oh, they're pretty good. But they feel like anomalies for the most part. And I feel like if you look at the roster, there's 47 DreamWorks movies that have come out since the inception of the studio in the like mid 90s. And there's probably like 25 that I have not seen and don't really even have an interest in seeing. Which is not the case for Pixar. Pixar probably has like 10 that would fall into that category. But yeah, I feel like they definitely do hit a note, but they also just kind of like, they have a lot of misses, man.
They definitely do. And I think as we go through our draft today, I wouldn't be surprised if the vast majority of our picks are more than 10 years old. And, you know, at the same time, to Akshay's point, I think that these movies, even if they came out maybe when we were in middle school or even earlier, I think are eminently rewatchable, in part because I think, you know, they do cater a little bit to that slightly more adult humor. And I also think they have a lot of other maybe slightly secondary characteristics that really can carry in some cases. I think some of these movies have fantastic soundtracks, for example.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I think you're hitting on, like, the reason that DreamWorks movies are good is also the reason that the last decade has been bad, in my opinion. They've kind of gone away from their formula of pushing the box, and they've put out some cookie cutter movies, you know, just going for the star voice cast, not really thinking about trying to push the needle. And when you copy Pixar, you're obviously not going to win because Pixar movies have this magic to them that DreamWorks movies don't have. But DreamWorks has humor, interesting characters, and that's really where they've tried to shine. And so I agree with Kunal. I think, you know, this draft is probably going to be weighted towards the beginning, but again, that's because, you know, nostalgia is a powerful thing. But I would like to remind the viewers that nostalgia shouldn't be the only factor in this draft, and that we should be mindful of being objective as possible and picking the best movies in a standalone basis.
Akshay's trying to prime us because he's going to choose the Spirit sequel movie that came out 3 years ago. Yeah. Have you all seen the Trolls movies? Like the 4 Trolls movies that DreamWorks put out?
Is it the Croods or no?
The Croods are in there for
That's
sure.
distinct. I think that they're a little bit distinct.
I mean,
right?
clearly I have.
Croods as itself has a couple movies.
Trolls World Tour.
Yeah, and there's Trolls Band Together that came out 3 months ago, 6 months ago. Jesus.
You know, I take back my take. Potentially, DreamWorks has not been hitting over the past decade.
Okay, can we go through? Okay, here's the last 10 movies that DreamWorks has put out. There's 2 good ones in here, in my opinion. So, Kung Fu Panda 4, which is why we're doing this pod. Orion and the Dark, which came out 2 months ago.
Never heard of it.
This? Yeah, me neither.
Never seen it. Never heard of it.
Can we look at the
until
cover?
I looked at this list today.
Wow.
Came out on Netflix?
Honestly, not looking bad.
It looks mad cute, actually.
I'll have to check it out. Trolls Band Together.
Sorry, go ahead.
Ruby Gilman Teenage Kraken. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. This is one of the good ones.
It's a good one, for sure.
The Bad Guys, in my opinion, is also one of the good ones.
Agreed.
Have you seen The Bad Guys?
You know, I haven't. No, I haven't.
The Boss Baby Family Business.
And you know what I'll say about Boss Baby is I personally haven't seen it, but I know that movie is extremely popular.
The first movie is good.
Yeah.
I think the first movie is actually good. It's not like great.
Hans Zimmer soundtrack.
Yeah, for both of them. Isn't that nuts? Spirit Untamed. Okay.
Right, that's mine.
You got thoughts on this one?
Yes, I've never seen it, but I personally am a fan of the horse's hair.
Fun fact:
I think it looks very similar to my own. So.
Do you guys know who voiced the original Spirit in the original movie?
What do you mean original movie?
Like this is the sequel to Spirit the Stallion that came out like 20 years ago.
Oh, that's another DreamWorks movie.
Mm-hmm.
Who voiced?
Was it Matt Damon?
It was Matt Damon. Matt Damon, Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron.
You know, now that you mention it, I think Matt Damon has a really good horse's voice. I could see it.
I can kind of see it too. He kind of looks like a horse if you kind of like flare some of the body parts.
Yeah, I can see it too.
All right,
I feel like if I was watching it today, I wouldn't be able to take it seriously with his voice playing.
Because it's Matt Damon. Yeah,
it's Matt Damon.
Okay, let's just get into it. We're getting into movie territory. So I'm going to decide the draft order by doing a random list generator.
Okay.
Me personally, I'm curious where you guys are at. I would hate to go first in this draft. I think going second and third, I'm like okay with.
It's clear that it's like a barbell. There's some really high quality movies at the top. There's some really high quality movies, and then there are a lot of really bad movies at the bottom. And there's not a ton of middle ground. And so I tend to agree. You're gonna have a lot of options at number one. It's gonna be a difficult choice, and you're not gonna ultimately be happy with the fact that your next pick is coming back at 6.
Yeah.
It's very true. That said, I have, in my own personal rankings, a top 6 that I would put pretty clear far and away ahead. So I'm actually okay coming first if that happens.
Well, so it sounds like Kunal maybe should just go first.
Maybe you should just go first when you decide to go second or third.
I'm okay with that.
It's against the spirit of the draft.
It's against the spirit of the draft. I agree.
It's against the spirit, though, so I guess you should just pick randomly.
All right, I'm going to randomize this list. Akshay, you're my witness. Akshay, Kunal,
I'm witnessing.
I'm going to hit randomize one time.
I'm watching.
Oh my god. Number 1 is Mihir. Number 2 is
And
Kunal.
once again,
alrighty.
the plot armor sticks to the kid.
Happy with 2 as well.
Okay, so this is actually interesting because I know for a fact that I know Akshay's number 1 movie because it's close to being my number 1 movie, but I don't think it is my number 1. But because we're drafting, I'm like trying to strategize as to like what I should be doing here.
I don't think you know my number 1.
I think I do.
I don't think you do. Let's find out.
Well, I gotta think this through. I think I know what Kunal's gonna take number 1. I think
Kunal's a little basic. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, so this is actually not what
That's
I think.
crazy.
This is not what I think is the best DreamWorks movie.
I know Kunal's. By the way, I for sure know Kunal's second pick.
Okay.
I'm gonna actually write it down.
Write it down.
You go ahead and write down what my first, second pick are.
Okay, so I have a pick for like what I think is the best DreamWorks movie. So if we were just doing a normal list, I would have a number 1 pick. That is not what I'm going to say right now. But my number 1 overall pick in the draft is what I think is the most rewatchable DreamWorks movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely like a favorite among us 3, I believe, and I think it's kind of timeless. I'm going Kung Fu Panda.
Of course, yep.
Okay.
Is that what you thought was going to be my first?
I thought that was going to be your number 1.
That is my number 1.
Yeah,
for sure. I love that pick at 1. You know, there are a ton of different directions you could go. You could go value to the studio. You could have gone your favorite from childhood. And I think you hit a really good balance of both with that pick. I have nothing to say about it. It's a good pick.
Absolutely. And it also, falls nicely in line with what you said. Kung Fu Panda 4 just coming out. Gotta pay homage back to where it started.
Yeah, and I think as a franchise, Kung Fu Panda is not held up really. Shrek is obviously helped by the fact that Puss in Boots is now becoming its own franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, even if you're not a fan of Shrek 4, you could be a fan of Puss in Boots 2, which is linked to the Shrek franchise. And it hasn't really, like, capitalized the way that some other franchises, like the Minions franchise has, in terms of, like, just, like, getting movies and getting content out there from different movies. But I think it's, like, the first 2 movies in the franchise are some of my favorites. So that's where I'm at. All right, Kunal, let's hear your number 1.
Oh, man. Well, I'll say this. Kung Fu Panda was not at my number 1. It was at my number 2. So
Can I just say that I think your number 1 is my number 1? Like my true number 1?
It's quite possible. I think we might end up in the same place here.
I think I know what he's picking. I think I know. Yeah.
And I think there's like a straightforward choice here, and it's real easy for me. For my first pick, I'm taking Shrek 2.
This is not where I thought you'd go.
What the?
Oh my god!
What's happening?
Oh my god!
How did it break?
What just happened?
I am a little bit too fat for me to share.
Our bar stool just literally collapsed under Akshay.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Kunal, give us a second. This is crazy. I'm so sorry. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm sorry for breaking the chair.
The chair just collapsed. Okay, in like 5 minutes, if you start to feel something, let me know if we can get you ice.
I seriously was not injured at all. No, but I wasn't injured at all. Honestly,
Okay, that's good. Jeez.
it actually worked out really well. All right, back to it.
Back to it.
All right. Ready, set, take two.
Take two.
Okay.
So
before all that happened, I had just picked Shrek 2, and then Akshay fell off his chair and
broke Akshay's chair. The room was so
I was so upset. So upset with that.
I think it could have. I think everyone here, listeners, Akshay probably expected me to just pick Shrek. I think. But if I think back to which one of these movies really like hooked me as not just like the franchise of Shrek, but also just as a movie in its own right, it would be Shrek 2.
Can I be honest with you, Kunal? I didn't think you were going to go here.
I'm so upset about that because my whole strategy about going number 3 was they're going to take Kung Fu Panda 1, they're going to take Shrek 1, and I'm going to get Shrek 2 at 3, and that's insane value because Shrek 2 is arguably better than both of those movies.
Arguably better than both those movies. Exactly. This is, I think, the best DreamWorks movie. I think it has tight humor. I think it has a rockin' soundtrack. I think it has an amazing villain and a fantastic climax.
The climax of Shrek 2, we've talked about this, Mihir. We've talked about it at length. It's potentially the best animated movie sequence of all time. Holding out for a hero scene from Shrek 2.
Holding out for a hero, good. Precisely. And then they bring it back in the credits too. Oh my god. I think that this movie just hits all the high notes for me. I think that while Shrek is of course a classic, I think that this movie takes like kind of the premise of this fairy tale parody and just runs with it far, far away. And to me, it really stands the test of time in so many ways. I had a great time just rewatching clips from this movie as I prepared for this pod, and I just knew I had to take it the earliest chance I could, even if that was first round.
Good for you. It's a good strategy, and I'm looking back on it, like, I'm happy with it because going first, I had to, I just knew I wasn't going to get certain movies. But I actually am realizing that, I thought I knew Kunal better than I do. Because I really thought I had a read on what you were going to do. I'm not going to say it because we'll get to it when it's true.
I'm actually wondering if I should take your guys' pick.
I'm still hoping I'm going to get the pick that I think that you think that I want at number 2.
And I think that you think that I'm going to take a certain movie here, and I might not.
We're trying to get into each other's heads and we're all missing. All right. I like that. So Akshay, do you think Shrek 2 is the best DreamWorks movie? Is that because I know that's what
I think Kung Fu Panda is number 1, and I think Shrek 2 is number 2. Okay. And so I actually like the way that you guys have been drafting. I think it's been really smart. You've been true to yourself. You've definitely, in terms of being true to yourself, but also treating this as a competition. You've been doing well because I'm struggling here a little bit with my next pick.
Well, you get
and because I'm low on. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm low on Shrek 1. But I think I'm low on it as a number 1 or number 2 pick. I don't hate it at 4. Okay. And in fact, the cultural impact of Shrek to DreamWorks, it was the one that got it all started. It's the one that changed the animated movie game. Oh, animated movies can be funny. We can have layers of adult humor. I mean, the character of Farquaad is literally a caricature of the Pixar head or of the Disney head.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Because the guy who started DreamWorks, Jeffrey Katz, I think it was Jeffrey Katz, he got outed from Disney.
Yeah.
And so the joke is that Farquaad is a really, really short character, and the guy who fired him is actually really tall. And so it's that's the whole thing. And so I think the movie, the cultural impact of the movie, it really speaks for itself. And so I'm taking Shrek 1 here. And I will say, rewatchability wise, it's way lower than Shrek 2 and Kung Fu Panda 1. When you watch the animated quality, it's actually way worse than you might remember. It was even bad for the time.
Yeah.
But I think the story of a hero who finds himself and goes out and gets the girl. I mean, that's a story that we all love. I personally do, and so I don't hate that at the third pick, Shrek 1.
Yeah, I mean it's like making fun of fairy tale stories, but it is a fairy tale story, and so it still like gives you those feelings that you get when you watch like a Disney movie, but it feels a little bit more real in a sense. It feels a little bit more like nuanced to the point where like you're not watching some magical fairy tale land. So I love it. I think you needed to take Shrek, so it's good.
Absolutely, I think that this was a guaranteed pick right here.
And for my next pick, listen, I don't want to pick. I'm not in the business of picking movies that I haven't seen. And so I'm going to leave up the movie that I know that both of you guys want up, even though I could take it here.
Yeah.
I could take it. I could ruin your whole draft.
You could ruin my whole draft.
You could.
You could ruin my day. You could actually ruin my whole day.
I could ruin your day, but that's not in the spirit of the draft. And so I'm struggling here. There's two movies that I like up, and I got to be true to... Like, there's one that I think is going to be more competitive. It's probably not going to be around the next time I pick.
You got to take what you're talking about.
But I'm instead going to take a different one, which is also not going to be up next time. I can't have both. So I'm going to take Puss in Boots: Last Wish.
Wow! You're taking this over the other one?
That's crazy.
I don't know if we're talking about the same one.
You're taking this over Kung Fu Panda 2?
Dude, Kung Fu Panda 2 does not deserve to be a second round draft pick.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with that, but
I have a different movie in mind actually, so now I feel better about it.
All right. Good.
Okay. Puss in Boots: Last Wish. I think that we are overrating. We as a group overrate nostalgia.
Yeah.
And simultaneously underrated. And what I love about Puss in Boots is that it's a nostalgic movie, but it is so interesting with what they did with the villain in that movie that hasn't really been done in a Pixar, DreamWorks, or animated movie in general. The number one animated movie villain all time.
All time?
Potentially.
Death. I think you could include it in a top 10 list, maybe.
I think it's comfortably top 5. I would love for you to name 9 more animated movie villains that are better.
Let's just do another episode in a month or so with.
I would love to do it. Yeah, and I'm taking Puss in Boots last. I know I'm over indexed to the Shrek universe, and honestly, I don't care. That's a movie that I could see myself rewatching once every few months. I can't say that about a lot of movies on this list.
I'm happy you took it because I that's like probably a number 3 on my board for what I would have taken. I don't even know how I would have taken it this upcoming round. So that's
I'm
fine.
actually really thrilled you took this because this is one of the movies I was mentioning that this is probably the top of my list that I would love to take, but I haven't actually seen.
Yeah.
So this is a movie I left off of my entire ranking as a result, but I definitely need to watch it. And it being this high on Akshay's list definitely only reinforces that for me.
What's next for you, Kunal?
Now I think I'm going to go with probably what Mihir thought I was going to pick at
this
number 2.
This is so upsetting because I literally picked next,
and I am so happy that I get to pick it even at number 5. This is How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, we knew this.
So upset about this.
I just feel like I'm getting everything that I want. Okay, I love this movie. I have also seen the sequels. I like those as well, but I think the original has a level of charm to it. Just being in a new world that is further explored in those sequels that I think is really special. And I mentioned earlier soundtracks. To me, this is one of my all-time favorite movie soundtracks. I'll give a specific shout-out to a track on How to Train Your Dragon's soundtrack, Forbidden Friendship, that I really enjoy. It's just a rollicking good time. It's a nice story of a young boy finding himself, and also got this whole really colorful and beautiful cast of dragons that only grows over the entire series. Just really love this movie. It's a story about family. It's a story about friendship, and it's got some great mythological aspects to it as well.
Yeah. So this is what I think is actually the DreamWorks best movie. So I was gonna take this at number 1, but I knew that it would probably there was a chance I could get it here, and obviously like Kunal took it in the 5th overall. I think it's the best one because of the writing. I think there's like a lot of clever writing in this movie. There's a moment where Hiccup, the main character, is like looking for the dragon and is basically talking to himself and says like, every other dragon would have tried to kill me, so why didn't you? And then I think towards the end of the movie, Astrid is talking to Hiccup, and she said all other Vikings here would have tried to kill that dragon, so why didn't you? And like the parallels that they draw in the story is like they're honestly kind of genius on a visual level. I don't think we can talk about DreamWorks being a visually like aesthetically great studio I think this is like the first movie that they really did put a lot of emphasis into the visuals.
Yes.
Cinematographer Roger Deakins consulted on this movie. Roger Deakins, Skyfall, 1917, Blade Runner 2049, like pretty much like every great movie in the last 15 years, like Roger Deakins shot. And the visuals in this movie are also great. And yeah, +1 to the music. So yeah, I love this movie. It definitely deserves to be drafted in like the first overall round.
Yes. I'm curious what this lost the best animated feature to.
This lost to Up in 2009.
Lost to Up.
2010.
You know,
that's fair.
That's
Up is a classic.
It's really fair.
I also think
movie for
Up was
Oscars.
Up was immediately beloved. Like Up was nominated for Best Picture, not even Best Animated Feature that year. It was only the second animated movie to get nominated for Best Picture. The first was Beauty and the Beast in '91. Like this was Up was a huge deal. It also lost Best Score to Up, which is tough. But I'm glad that we're at least we're memorializing it. In this draft.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, I got two picks here. I took Kung Fu Panda in the first overall. My second pick is going to be a movie I only watched for the first time last year. This is The Prince of Egypt. I believe this is DreamWorks' second movie that they ever made. Came out in '98. Incredibly dark movie. Really beautiful music. The songs aren't super memorable, but the animation and the overall story was like pretty breathtaking. And I was just like so impressed by what I saw. And it's kind of weird because I feel like their animation took a turn for the worse when Shrek came out a couple years later. But Prince of Egypt's animation is truly breathtaking. So I don't know, Akshay, if you've seen it, but I know Kunal has.
I've not seen it, so I'll let you guys talk about it.
Yeah, I think this movie's really beautiful. It's got an amazing soundtrack as well. And I think for its time, the animation is really timeless, really, for how old this movie is. I think it's beautifully done, and you can tell its age if you watch it now, but it still is like really entrancing. And I think one thing, as someone who's not Christian, I think that this is a movie that can be appreciated both by people who have kind of the background knowledge of the Old Testament, as well as people who are coming into the story just like completely without knowledge of that kind of history.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't even know what the movie was about. I didn't realize it was going to be this biblical tale. So I think it hit even harder going in kind of blind. That's a great point. All right, just chugging right along. My second pick is going to be Kung Fu Panda 2.
Lord Shen.
This movie, I watched this movie in theaters in India in 2011. I think it's genuinely a top 5 movie going experience for me. Like watching this as a 12, 13-year-old, was just like so exhilarating. There's some visuals in this movie that like still hit to this day. The music is kick-ass. It like just jumps right into the action immediately. It's a great villain, and a great moral. And they were able to like capitalize on everything they built in the first movie and kind of grow things exponentially. I think it's a fantastic sequel. Personally, I know this is not an objective take, but I think Kung Fu Panda, like the first 2 movies, I think are better than Shrek 1 and Shrek 2. But I think it's also because I need to revisit Shrek 2, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, Kung Fu Panda 2 is just one of my favorite sequels, and one of my favorite movies of the last decade. So that's where I'm going, number 3.
Yeah. I think this is a really nice pick. This was definitely on near the top of my list too. I think I had this one at number 7 for myself. So
you have like a ranked
this is a good one.
List?
Yeah.
It's just to keep things organized for myself.
Oh, you have a ranked list too?
I have a ranked list too. Did the work.
Dude, I'm out here vibing it.
He's vibing. Honestly, you need that though.
You need that factor, yeah.
I think what's really memorable about this movie to me is where the first movie felt a little bit like a combination of Poe's journey and kind of like Shifu's story. This movie is like all Poe's story. With the main villain kind of having his like whole panda hating thing. So. Yeah,
and when we're talking about movie villains, I will say the Kung Fu Panda, that duo of Tai Lung and Lord Shen, that could be a top 5. Those could both be top 5 movie villains.
I think Tai Lung.
Tai Lung for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. No, I think Akshay's right though. Lord Shen definitely underrated as a villain. It's hard putting him up against
the final sequence where he, the inner piece cannonball sequence. That's electric, man. That still gives me goosebumps when I watch it.
Absolutely beautiful. Alrighty, I guess I'll come in next with so this is pick number 8 overall and my third pick, and I'm pretty pleased with this one. I'm grabbing, this is the 6th ranked movie off my list, so I feel like I'm still riding high. For my third pick, I'm gonna take Road to El Dorado.
I knew it. Let me hear what I wrote down.
You actually that's unbelievable. Wow. I'm just gonna start right off the bat and say that I also rewatched this movie, and Kunal, this is sitting at number 18 on my personal list. So I just want to put that out there. Let's hear why you love it.
Okay, so this movie's something special to me. I watched it as a kid once, and I didn't think too much of it as a kid. Though my favorite movie was, of course, The Emperor's New Groove, as I've talked about before on this pod, and I think that these two movies bear some similarity for their brash humor and just general good fun. And I think what makes this movie special to me is it's actually a really important movie to my partner Amy. It's one of the first movies we watched together. And on that rewatch was where I think really gotten a greater appreciation for this movie. It's got kind of a story that's a bit all over the place. I think that's kind of where I might fault it a little bit, but I think it's got that characteristic DreamWorks kind of adult humor that I think makes it rewatchable at a later time. It's also got, again, a great soundtrack, again, a Hans Zimmer soundtrack. I think this might actually be Hans Zimmer and John Powell is what I'm reading now, actually, which I didn't know until just now, which is incredible. I just think this movie's really fun, and even though it's kind of random how it gets there, I find the end sequence with the ball game to be really enjoyable.
And let's not forget about the cultural impact of Road to El Dorado has lasted, much longer than potentially other movies on this list. I still see TikToks to this day about guys saying, "Why do I like?" or "Why do I like thick girls?" And it goes back to Chow from Road to El Dorado.
I mean, you're not wrong. That's a very fair point.
I'm pretty sure that's why Kunal likes this movie.
Yeah, in not so many words.
All right, no comment. Let's move on to pick number 9.
All right. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we're officially entering the weird part of this draft. Because there's not some obvious takes at this place.
Yeah,
and I think that there's one movie that's gone untalked about, one franchise that's gone untalked about in our little journey here. With the next pick, I'm taking Madagascar 2.
Yeah.
Escape to Africa.
The second one.
Sorry, let me correct that really quick. This is actually Madagascar Escape to Africa. That's the official name of
Africa.
Africa.
To Africa. And I'm taking the second one. Thanks for asking, Kunal. The second one is really a story about... It's a story that us as immigrants can really relate to. It's a story about, you're in America, you're away from your people and going back and exploring your roots, exploring your culture. There's no, really obvious antagonist, as I recall. It's just a movie about finding your home and finding your people.
Yeah, I think there might be like a vaguely evil lion, but besides the vaguely evil lion, you're right. It's about the evils of, just how do you return home?
And I love the theme of this movie of the family you're born with and then your found family. I think it's a beautiful story, and I think it makes a lot of sense as a pick right here. And with my next pick in this draft, I'm taking Megamind.
Give himself a hype song too.
Let's talk about movie villains. And one of my favorites is Megamind, who's actually the protagonist of this film, for those who haven't seen, but I feel like everyone has. It's really turning, the classic story on its head. It's not a new story. Certainly we've seen corrupt heroes, that trope kind of play out in tons of different ways. But yeah, I love the Megamind character. Again, it's not, a top 6 movie, but I think it's great value at number 4.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I really respect this number 4 pick.
Megamind's also it might be top 3 in terms of DreamWorks movies that are talked about in terms of the pop culture. like Megamind memes are still out there getting thrown around casually. You know?
And the cultural impact is something that I'm really thinking about a lot with these draft picks.
No, it's a good pick.
100%.
It's up there. It's number 13 on my list, and there's a good chance I drafted it. My next pick.
Honestly actually took some hits here. Megamind was also, I think it was number 9 for me actually. So this was really, I respect these picks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I guess on my next pick, my number 4, I guess I'll kind of divert a little bit from Akshay's point about things that have maintained some pop culture relevance to a movie that I really feel like has been quite forgotten in the modern day, but that I really, really love. I grew up really enjoying this movie. On a rewatch, I'll agree, maybe it didn't quite hold up, but I still have a real soft spot for Over the Hedge.
Dude, that was literally... I was thinking about Over the Hedge, too.
I have it pulled up to show
I thought I was going to get it at 5, actually, to be honest. That's why I didn't take it.
That was my next one.
Okay.
This movie is fantastic. It's a ton of fun. I feel like it's a trope that maybe we are more familiar with now, but I feel like we probably weren't back in 2006 of, like... It has kind of like a Toy Story feel of like these kind of things that are intelligent that aren't normally intelligent in real life that are like plotting against the evil humans. It's just got a really fun cast of characters from the main character, the raccoon RJ, who's, you love him, you hate him at different points in the movie, but throughout he's really fun to watch. And he's got a great foil in the turtle Vern, who's kind of the straight man, the hey guys, let's be a little careful here. Yes, I did have a stuffed animal of Vern as a kid. And
Kunal, would you say that you're the Vern of the Over the Hedge story?
No doubt, in my mind, I am Vern.
Dude, yes. I can't believe he said Vern. I used to have on Nintendo DS. One of my most played games was the Over the Hedge DS game, actually.
Oh my god.
Was it good?
It was awesome. I mean, at the end of the day, we love a good heist movie.
We love a good heist
movie. Mm-hmm. And that's what Over the Hedge, is at its core. So I love this pick.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This is great. I think Over the Hedge is like the least talked about DreamWorks movie that deserves to be talked about the most.
Yep.
I think it's top 10 for me right now.
100%. Did you guys know that Steve Carell's in this movie? I didn't
yes.
realize. He plays like a tertiary character in this movie.
Wait, he plays the crazy squirrel, right?
Who plays
He
Vern?
does. He plays the squirrel.
Plays Hammy. Vern is played by Gary Shanley, R.I.P.
Gary Shanley, yeah. And then Bruce Willis is RJ.
The foil. That's crazy.
All right. Okay, so I have my final 2 picks here. And I know what I'm going to do, but I'm pretty sure that like these 2 movies, I don't know if this is on either of your lists, but this movie is deeply underrated. You don't know. You don't know what I'm going to pick.
Okay, pick it.
This movie, I believe, is the highest grossing stop motion animated movie ever made. This is Chicken Run that came out in 2000.
Okay, I like that.
I'm okay with that.
Chicken Run, I don't know if this was before you moved to North Carolina, but growing up, we used to watch this movie as like a non-violence movie. My parents would watch this and say like, "Oh, you see, like this is why we don't eat chicken because they treat chicken so badly." And honestly, like that made such a big difference for me growing up.
So funny.
This movie is regarded as a feminist movie, one of the great feminist animated movies.
Wow!
It made a large impact in the claymation space and kind of showed the world that claymation could be profitable at this level. And it's a kind of a heist movie. It's kind of a revolution movie. It's like a let's break out of jail movie. And they just released a sequel on Netflix that came out called Dawn of the Nugget, which I won't say was like the best movie ever, but still made me happy.
It's not a DreamWorks movie?
I don't think it's officially a DreamWorks movie. I think it might be the same like claymation company that made it or something, Aardman Animation. But yeah, I love this movie. I don't know. Where are you guys at on Chicken Run?
Haven't seen it.
I had this on my list as well. Yeah, I had this at number 14 on my list. I like this one. It's a nice movie. I haven't watched it in a long time. I think that I also watched it as a kid. Not sure if it was with you or in a similar context, but no, I think this is a great.
It might have been, man. And honestly, animated villains. Shout out animated villains. Mrs. Tweety, terrifying. Gave me nightmares. Look her up, kids, or don't look her up because she'll scare you. Okay. I mean, number 5. I can't believe I had to go first in this draft, man. Because my board, I like my board, but my board just does not look how I thought it would look. I think for me, there's a clear number 5 for me, and I'm just gonna do it. You talked about not taking nostalgia in too heavily. This movie came out in 2022. This is The Bad Guys. Mm-hmm. I think this movie is formulaic but incredibly charming, and I'm really excited to see if they make a sequel to it. This is about Mr. Wolf realizing slowly throughout the movie that he actually does like being a good guy and a good boy. It also features a really hot fox, Diane Foxington. And you can watch this movie on Netflix, I believe. But yeah, I thought this was just like a lot of fun. It's a really kinetic intro sequence and a lot of kinetic chase sequences as well. I'm going to give it a watch.
I thought it was quite fun. I didn't have like too many thoughts on it when I watched it. I thought it was very stylish, which, you know, is just kind of cool to see. And the voice cast, I think is good as well. It's got some kind of some voice actors that I feel like are more in tune with our generation. I'm thinking of someone like Craig Robinson being in this movie. So yeah, I liked it. I like this pick too. I will say it's a bit of a surprise for me on your list, though. There are a couple that I thought you might take before this.
Yeah, you know, I think for me, a couple of like the childhood staples, when I looked at like what do I really like here, I think I'm like not really as passionate about a couple of the ones that are left on my board. I mean, I'd be happy with them, but yeah, I'm excited to talk about them if they're not drafted.
I hear that. Yeah. I would probably rather watch Bad Guys than some of these other mid DreamWorks movies that kind of came out.
Agreed. I think at my last pick, you know, this is tricky. I feel like I have a couple options here, and it's tough. I have 2 picks that remain from kind of my top 10 actually, and I think I'm going to go with one of those. I'm going to go with Wallace and Gromit of the Were-Rabbit.
Yeah, this is a good one. This is a real good one. I'm glad you picked this up.
Yeah, it's tough between this and the other one that I'm considering that I'll probably bring up in our honorable mentions. But you know, I just think this movie's a lot of fun. It's I love Wallace and Gromit just as a duo. I love the kind of shorts they've been in over the years. I don't know if is this their first kind of full-length movie that they're in, or I'm not sure. Maybe you can fill me in, Mihir.
I think it's the only full-length movie that they're in. But they are making a sequel to this movie on Netflix.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
I
think it's fun. I think it has a fun twist in the middle. I think that the characters from Wallace himself to kind of the I think the Victor character who they're kind of like facing off against are all quite fun. I think Helena Bonham Carter's also in this as the main leading lady. And you know, it's just good fun, and it also I think harkens back to this stop motion animation that you brought up with Chicken Run. I think that this is kind of the peak of that format in many ways.
Yeah, I agree. There's been 2 movies to win Best Animated Feature from DreamWorks: Shrek and Wallace and Gromit: Curse of the Were-Rabbit in 2005. So, put some respect on Wallace and Gromit. I love it.
Absolutely.
Well, I hate the situation that I've been in.
Akshay is rapidly scrolling through the Wikipedia page for DreamWorks Animation.
I was locked in on Wallace and Gromit. Again, great pick. I think Kunal, you've killed this draft. Honestly, well done.
Yes, sir.
I want to take this moment to talk about what I think is potentially the worst animated movie of all time. I know that we're not here yet.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, the worst animated movie has to be something that had, you know, good critical reception, good box office success. It can't just be like a nothing, nobody movie. It had to be a movie that really, people watched and affected the ethos. That is objectively the stupidest plot of all time. And Mihir, you know exactly where I'm going with this one.
Yeah.
It's the B movie.
Yeah.
What a stupid movie.
Oh man.
I just didn't know you felt this strongly about it.
Are you actually picking this? Are you actually picking this?
With a B? I'm not picking it.
Okay.
All right. A woman falls in love with a bee. Crazy.
You know, meme culture is great, but one of the worst things it did was convince people that if it's memeable, it's good.
Yeah.
And a B movie is not a good movie.
Absolutely.
No, it is not.
You know, I love Jerry Seinfeld, but he He might be the best part of the movie, but it's not a good movie.
I think
It's just
Patrick
weird.
Warburton is also a really important part of this movie. But
Courtroom drama B movie? What the hell is that?
But honestly, if you pitched me that and B movie didn't exist, I'd be like, let's do it, man. That sounds great.
it's kind of a fun concept.
It's a good
not gonna
concept.
Well, keeping up with the theme of you guys picking Aardman movies as your last pick, I'm picking a movie which I actually don't know if you guys have seen, and that's Flushed Away.
I have not seen Flushed Away.
This
Which
was
is
on
a
my
big- it's
list.
a big hole.
This was on my
It's a big
list.
hole.
I like this.
And Flushed Away is a movie that I have not seen since childhood, so bear with me while I make up why I like it. But it's a story about a rat who I think gets flushed away down into the sewers, and has to meet their sewer rats. He's a pet rat. He's pampered. He has a really nice family, and he has to go and meet the people that he was his ancestors are from the sewers. And so I think it's a really nice story. It's a classic, rich person getting down on their luck and having to figure it out. And again, the Aardman movies have that unique character design to them, which I think that we all love. And I think this movie was also potentially stop motion, or maybe not, but I think it definitely is a little bit of an underrated film. I'm certainly going to watch it again after this draft, and I recommend everyone does as well.
Yeah, it's a good one. I haven't seen it. I have not seen this, and there's another DreamWorks movie that I often get confused with that I've never seen as well, which is Shark Tale.
Yeah.
I get these two confused all the time.
Shark Tale is on I've seen Shark Tale. It's the Will Smith movie, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Will Smith and Martin Scorsese voice.
Yeah,
acting.
I will say that we have a friend who thinks that the fish in Shark Tale, the lady fish in Shark Tale, is actually very attractive.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a reason to take it, but the movie just it's not high quality.
What's that friend's name? Full name.
Kevin Wagwon Cow.
I'll say this about Flushed Away. I think it's like an inferior reverse Ratatouille.
Wow.
So hear me out.
That's not a bad take.
It's a movie. They're both about rats, first of all. But putting that aside,
It's a reverse Ratatouille. Absolutely,
it's a reverse Ratatouille because instead of going from the sewers to kind of this rich posh life, you're going from a rich posh life to the sewers. And then in the end of Flushed Away, spoilers, sorry if you haven't watched this, and after Akshay's glowing review, you want to watch it. He ends up like kind of sticking with the sewers while his like friend who like came up from the sewers is now living his new life in like the nice apartment. So yeah, reverse Ratatouille, definitely inferior, but if you watched or listened to our Pixar ranking podcast, Mihir and I put Ratatouille as our number one, so it can't be that bad if it's just a inferior Ratatouille.
Yeah, I like to take a reverse Ratatouille. Arguably, the way that they did it in Flushed Away makes way less sense than the way they did it in Ratatouille. Because who has a pet rat? But no, the movie's interesting. It's cool, and again, I'm not saying it's a first or second round draft pick. I'm not saying you should go and watch this movie immediately. But yeah, if you have a second, if it's on Netflix, pop it on. You might like it.
Wow. So, let's recap our draft boards, and then we'll jump into honorable mentions and dishonorable mentions.
No Boss Baby.
Boss Baby was not mentioned. Hold on, Kunal, are you good to talk for 5 more minutes, or do you need to hop?
Yeah, no, I can keep going.
Okay, real quick. Our final draft boards. I had Kung Fu Panda, The Prince of Egypt, Kung Fu Panda 2, Chicken Run, and The Bad Guys. Kunal had Shrek 2, How to Train Your Dragon, The Road to El Dorado, Over the Hedge, and Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. Akshay had Shrek, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, Madagascar, Escape to Africa, Megamind, and Flushed Away. How are we feeling?
I feel like there were two movies that I walked in here and I said, I'm going to get these later on in the draft, and I'm going to have a fire draft. And that was Over the Hedge and Wallace and Gromit. And so I'm very upset with how this draft has gone.
Me personally, I just didn't want to go first because I really wanted How to Train Your Dragon, and I knew whoever went first could not possibly take How to Train Your Dragon. And so yeah, I'm not feeling great, but my whole draft board is in my top 10 personal rankings, so I'm okay with it. I know I'm not going to win any polls that I put out on Instagram or Spotify, but I think that's going to go to either YouTube because of the Shrek franchise power, but I'm feeling good about having both Kung Fu Pandas.
I will bring up the point that Kung Fu Panda is actually a lot more popular than you might think. For those who don't know this about me, I have up on my dating profile a ranking of movies, and it's Kung Fu Panda. It's ranked these movies: Kung Fu Panda, Shrek, Incredibles, and Toy Story. A little mix of Pixar and DreamWorks. And I will say, by far, the number one answer, it's not even close, is Kung Fu Panda.
That's wild.
80 to 90%.
That's crazy.
That's actually
and Toy Story is universally number 4.
Yeah. Our generation sleeps on Toy Story. We don't really care about that, which is tough. I love that movie.
And so, to be honest, I don't hate your draft. I just wanted to tell you that. I think you're being down on yourself. I think the power of Kung Fu Panda at number 1 is a high value pick.
It's pretty big, and getting Kung Fu Panda 2 as well. I think that's pretty huge because there are those who might argue that Kung Fu Panda 2 is maybe even a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a great board. I'll say though, I'm thrilled about my board. Personally, I got a lot of picks that are really special to me, and I feel like I got some big hits. And I think Shrek 2 at number 1, I'm really happy with.
To me, going second and third here gave you guys a lot more power, but the Shrek 2, How to Train Your Dragon, back to back, and then getting over the hedge and Wallace and Gromit is just great.
I can't fault anything on Kunal's draft. Shrek 2, Over the Hedge, and Wallace and Gromit. Those are in my top 6, top 7. So there's nothing to fault for me. If I had to pick a draft, it would have to be Kunal's for sure.
Real quick, I'm just gonna shout out a bunch of movies that were in my top 15, top 16. The original Madagascar, we touched on the sequel. The original Madagascar is not bad. I just think that after you draft the sequel, it's kind of rough to draft the original.
I felt the same way. I couldn't draft Madagascar after I actually took Madagascar 2. I agree with
Madagascar 2 is objectively the better movie.
I agree.
It is.
I agree.
And let's talk about Penguins of Madagascar while we're on that train.
Haven't seen it.
But love the characters.
Characters are timeless for sure.
Top 5 foursome in movie history potentially.
Add it to the list. We're drafting that
Skipper
one.
Kowalski.
Private. The dumb one. Rico.
How could we forget about Rico? The bomber.
We talked about Megamind. Monsters vs. Aliens. Y'all seen that one?
Never.
No, I have not.
Honestly, it's not great, but it's not bad. It's kind of fun. It's a fun monster fight movie. Boss Baby, I will die on the hill that Boss Baby is a good movie. Not great. It's like a 6 or 7 out of 10, but it's worth watching. It's actually fairly original, very funny. A lot of corporate humor that hits post-COVID, I think. At least for our generation. I mean, we started working post-COVID, so...
I love that you said it was original, because my head of Boss Baby, given the amount of success it had, was this is an AI movie.
No, I'm telling you, the sequel was an AI movie. Boss Baby Family Business. Don't recommend that one. But Boss Baby, the original, is very funny. Alec Baldwin plays the Boss Baby, and he's hilarious. 2 more that I wanted to shout out. How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Yeah. And its sequel too, honestly.
I'm surprised you guys didn't take it. I haven't seen it.
It's good. I think the climactic scene where Toothless starts to turn on the good guys, I'm not going to ruin the movie if no one's seen it, is genuinely terrifying and great movie making.
Yeah.
Great music as well, but I just think that it doesn't even hold up close to the original, and it just felt rough taking that one.
Agreed.
And then the last one I'll shout out is the original Puss in Boots. I thought that was a fun movie, nothing special, but deserves to be watched.
Yeah. All right. So I had 2 more on my list that I didn't take because they were a little further down, but I do want to shout out here. One was my absolute dark horse pick that I was really hoping I wouldn't have to get to in this draft, and I didn't. That's the Captain Underpants movie.
Holy moly, dude.
This is the movie that I was pretty sure that neither of you had seen. And correct. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I enjoyed these books too as a kid, and this movie adapts 4 of them into one movie. And it's really good. They picked the most iconic villain from the franchise, Poopy Pants. Professor PP Poopy Pants, sorry, is the villain of this movie.
How dare you get that wrong? That's so rude.
And it's got a lot of great laughs. It's actually got a somewhat heartwarming story, really, actually. And the friendship between George and Harold is fun to watch. And it's got some great toilet humor, as it should. And really like this movie. It's definitely underrated. I don't think many people saw this movie, but it's quite good. I'll throw in Home, which is on my list.
The guy who played Sheldon Cooper, Jim Parsons, voiced the alien.
Yes, and I think Is it Rihanna who plays the?
Oh, it's a Jim Parsons Rihanna movie.
It's
I
Jim
remember
Parsons
all the
Rihanna,
memes about
yes.
it. Yeah.
And it's got a really fun soundtrack, is what I'll say about it. I think that the story is also kind of all over the place, and like they have like a main central conflict that like seems to be resolved by like halfway through the movie, and then it's like, oh wait, actually it's not resolved. And yeah, so the story is kind of random, but got a really fun soundtrack. Half of it is Rihanna, of course, because she's also playing the main character. Would also recommend.
And for the last honorable mention here, I'm gonna go with Shrek Forever After. So not Shrek the Third, the fourth Shrek movie.
Okay.
Very fun movie. The third movie I think was really focused on the family, but what I loved about the fourth was that it's a return to the focus of Shrek the character. Obviously, I think he's going back in time to save his family from Rumpelstiltskin. Not a bad movie, not as bad as you might think. Definitely a fun watch. Cast of characters you love, and the coolest thing about the movie is it put me on chimichangas.
Really?
I'd never heard of them before the movie.
That's big.
Damn.
And so for that cultural impact alone, it deserves to be on this honorables mention list.
Love it. Any movies that you guys want to shout out as dishonorable mentions? The one, though, I've already mentioned Boss Lady Family Business. The one movie that I think was like abysmal, and it's the reason I haven't gone and seen Kung Fu Panda 4 yet, is Kung Fu Panda 3.
Wow. Yeah.
I think it's
I was like,
fair one.
It was like my most anticipated movie of the decade, arguably. And it really fell flat.
Oh no.
Just was not fun. Too childish. Not enough serious themes, and too many cop outs that they added to the whole magical logic of it all. So that's my one dishonorable.
I mean, I already said mine. I think the B movie is potentially the worst animated movie of all time.
I'll throw in the very first DreamWorks movie, Ants. Also known as the inferior sibling of a movie that's already kind of mid, Bug's Life. I do like A Bug's Life, but this is just the much worse cousin.
Wait, so did they come out at the same time?
Yeah,
I
Bug's
think
Life
so.
is also
Yes,
98
I
film,
think
yeah.
so.
Like, do they know about each other?
There's got to be some sort of like some guy heard the idea and then just pitched it as his own, and no one knows how it happened.
And like it was both like a secret on both sides.
Yeah, there's just no way that it happens like organically, right? Like they're just too similar.
Yeah.
Another reason I think Ants has not had like a good pop culture life is because the main ant is voice acted by Woody Allen. So obviously, like no one wants to talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of the ones that people might have like as like weird like loves from their childhood. Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, Sinbad.
Yeah, that was I showed Mihir. I was like, I haven't seen this movie, but if I get in a dark place, I might take a flyer on Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas, because
I
it
think
looks
it's
really
supposed
cool.
to be pretty decent. Same with Spirit. I think they're both supposed to be pretty decent movies.
And it's a Brad Pitt movie. We love a good Brad Pitt movie.
Yep.
Love the good Brad Pitt.
I want to give one more dishonorable mention to Madagascar 3, the Europe's Most Wanted.
Awful movie.
It's just, it feels like they had really wrapped up the character arcs of the main foursome, and then they decided, actually, let's just have them go to a new continent. Why not?
Let's actually stay on Madagascar for 1 second. Amazing movie in that it had two of the most iconic foursomes of all time, now that I think about it.
True.
The main Madagascar foursome and the penguins. Wow.
That's good. It's a lot of characters to juggle, and they did it.
And then a threesome of lemurs.
I will say we're underrating the original so Madagascar 3 has the circus song, the Chris Rock's circus song. Madagascar, the original, I mean, I Like to Move It. That kind of ran shit for like 10 years, right?
Oh, that may be a top song. That might be at least top 5 of DreamWorks songs all time.
Yeah,
in terms of the culture.
The culture.
Sure.
I mean,
for the culture.
Madagascar did that, Madagascar 2 is a better movie.
It quite literally put Madagascar on the map.
That's true. You're so right.
Can you make an argument for any of these other movies to put a whole country on the map?
I don't think I can, man. Any closing thoughts? You guys want to run back another draft in a month or so?
I would love to.
I'd love to.
Thanks
This
for having
was a
us
ton
on.
of fun. Thanks so much, Mihir.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad you guys could do it. Listeners, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Special thanks to my lovely girlfriend Krupa Patel for the podcast's artwork, and my good friend Kevin Cow for the music that you're listening to now. You can find more of his music on Instagram at Weiguang Beats. Thanks, y'all.